Hey, Bisons fans, Pat Malacaro here with you from my home office. And as we head into the Memorial Day weekend, I thought it'd be a good chance to catch up with a couple of the key contributors to the 2019 Bison season. I had a chance to catch up with Andy Burns and Patrick Kivlehan. And for those of you that have been following the Bisons for quite a while, you'll remember Burns from his first stint with Buffalo before going to Korea for 2 years and then rejoining the Blue Jays organization heading into the 2019 season. Had a chance to talk to Burns about all of his experiences leading up to last year and even how this spring training had been going for him, which it had been going pretty well. And I get a chance to catch up with Burns a little bit later on. But first, I talked to Patrick Kivlehan. He was acquired midseason, if you remember, last year, and was one of the big reasons why, with his offense at the plate, the Bisons made that midseason push, had a great stretch in June, carried it into August, and came down to the stretch run where the Bisons were fighting for a playoff spot. And I talked to Kivlehan about last season, but also asked him how he's been staying in shape and staying ready for when the 2020 season finally begins.
It's been a little crazy, but I've been logging some serious dad duty hours, that's for sure. I have a 19-month here with me and my wife, so she's a teacher, so she's been doing the whole virtual thing with Zooming and all that, and I've just been on full time chasing around the house 24/7.
I guess if there's a silver lining to not being playing baseball right now, being around family and with your young child has to be an experience that you won't be able to get back in the future.
Yeah, no, that's kind of been the one positive of this whole thing is that I'm getting time I obviously wouldn't normally get, and certainly taking advantage of it.
Are you able to stay in baseball shape and kind of get not regular reps, but just kind of be ready in case something comes up?
More recently, yeah, kind of once this all happened, it was kind of just like hanging out, kind of just seeing what would happen. But recently, I've been working out a lot in the garage. I have some weights. The Blue Jays actually sent me a bunch of bands and a couple kettlebells and stuff, so they helped out there. But yeah, I've been going to hit and all that and running. So kind of as it gears up more and more, getting more and more ready to go.
I know that's one question fans have asked me a lot is just, are you, the players, kind of engaged with the front office? Are they kind of, in terms of staying in game shape or just having conversations in general to see how you guys are doing?
Yeah, not so much like front office, but like a lot of the coaches are checking in. And the trainers think they have like a certain amount of players that they each check in with, and so it's maybe weekly, bi-weekly, just depending on who it is or whatever. But they just kind of call, check in, see how things are going, and make sure everyone's healthy and ready to go for when we get going.
Now, you signed back with the Blue Jays again in this past November, pretty early on in the process. Can you take me through a little bit of, what the conversation might have been like at the end of last season and, what your expectations might have been and what theirs were going into this spring?
Yeah, I was obviously a minor league free agent, and I had some interest from some other teams that I listened to, but what I found in Buffalo last year, kind of the camaraderie and the group of guys they had there, and how comfortable I felt, and how fast I got to know everybody, and how comfortable I felt. I just thought that was the place I wanted to be, and me being a guy, like, I've been in 8 different organizations, not a lot of time, so it's been quick stop here, quick stop there, quick stop here, and I was kind of tired of that, and really just wanted to kind of settle in and really like find a place where I can kind of call home and just play. So that's why I inevitably ended up re-signing with the Blue Jays.
It's one of the things you mentioning that just kind of reinforced it to me. And this not necessarily is 100% an accurate example, but sometimes you don't have the best teams, but you have a lot of great teammates, and that shows up. And I think last year in Buffalo, there was a lot of that, both of those things, a very good team and good teammates. And I think we saw that on and off the field last year.
Yeah, I think when I first got there, I think we were kind of one of the worst teams in the league, but I think things were kind of starting to turn around, and then I kind of came there and kind of just fit in well with everybody else, and we started playing really well, and we gave it a good run. We ended up coming a couple games short of that the postseason, but I mean, I don't know if I was there all year, maybe we had that team all year that we had at the end of the year and the beginning of the year. We would have been playing some October baseball.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the pitching rotation, the starting 9 every day. I mean, that to me was one of the exciting things going into this year was not knowing where everyone would fit in, but there were a lot of pieces that were ready to be in place.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a lot of the same guys coming back, and then the addition of some more. So it would have been fun, but I don't know what's happening now. But it's tough. But to look back on what could have been those first couple months of the season, it would have been pretty special.
You were in spring training with the Blue Jays this year and getting reps in big league games. And I noticed you played a lot of first base, almost exclusively in the field at first base. Is that something that was part of getting you ready for what would have been a minor league or big league start this year?
I mean, I'm assuming so. That's kind of why they were putting me there. They didn't really tell me specifically that I would be playing only first base. I was honestly kind of hoping to jump around a little more, but again, it's just a matter of numbers and kind of who was there. And obviously they have a lot of young guys in camp too, so those guys need to play. So I know I'm not really a priority guy, so I just took what I can get. And obviously when the season would have started in Buffalo, it would have been different because we would have just had our team, and it wouldn't have been trying to fit 60 guys into a lineup as opposed to just 12. So it would have been a lot easier. But that's kind of how it was, and I'm not going to complain. It is what it is.
Yeah, I know it's kind of something we talk about all the time, and I almost sound like a broken record. But the ability to be versatile, and especially if you're a veteran, making a team, showing a team that you can be versatile is always important.
Yeah, I think especially nowadays, the way kind of baseball's heading, there's so many guys who could play different positions that, you have some guys who've never played second base, but they can hit really well, and they just put them at second base, and now they're a second baseman. So it's it's good to just kind of know all the positions in a sense, not just kind of stick to one.
We talk about being athletic, and I mean, you're a good example of that. I want to ask you how often, because people look you up online, one of the first things that comes up is you played college football.
Yeah.
Is that something that comes up quite frequently, or is that something that kind of goes under the radar now?
It still comes up. I wouldn't say it comes up as often anymore, kind of the older I get, but when it does come up, guys are way more intrigued because they haven't heard about it. Because I feel like when I was younger, everyone heard about it, everyone kind of knew the story. But now kind of less people know about it. So when they hear about it, they're kind of more intrigued and they want to hear it.
And I know one of your teammates last year, Patrick Cantwell, when I was kind of talking to you about it, he gave me the eye roll, like, oh, we got to hear about this again.
Yeah, well, we played together in 2016 in Round Rock in AAA with the Rangers, and that's kind of when I first got to my new team from Seattle when I got drafted there. So it was my first time in a new organization. So everyone wanted to hear that story over again. So he probably heard it maybe close to 20 times.
Patrick Kivlehan joins us here today as we're chatting about baseball specifically here. And, mentioned a little bit earlier about teammates and how you fit in last year. And one of the things that I thought came as the season went along with the wins was that camaraderie of after wins, that the fight for the mic that you guys had. And
Yeah, that ended up being a little kind of spark plug for us there. We kind of got involved with that, and then it kind of just took off where guys just started kind of embracing it and going for it. And then really by the end of the game, we were all fighting to try and get up there and sing.
you really could get a sense for guys' personalities. Maybe guys were quiet by nature, but once it was their turn, if they had a big start or a big game at the plate, everyone really embraced it, I thought.
Yeah, it was fun. A lot of guys broke out of their shells when it came to that because you thought they were the quiet guy, and then they get up there and they just belt out some high notes or some songs you just really haven't heard in 20 plus years, and just makes you laugh. So it was a good way for guys to just kind of break out of their shell and really make us one unit.
As we talk a little bit about what could have been for the start of this year, I wanted to get your thoughts on some of your teammates last year and pitching wise. How would you attack a guy like Nate Pearson who throws so hard? Or I'll ask you about a couple other guys, but Nate specifically, what he brings to the table and what how that can be difficult for a hitter.
Yeah, we got a little taste of that last year when he came up to Buffalo, but if he executes his pitch, there's no way you're gonna hit it, how you want to hit it. You may end up getting a cheap hit somehow, but unless he just maybe grooves one and you just happen to be guessing for a pitch in that exact location, you're not gonna do much. He's really, really good.
And some of the other pitchers on the staff last year, like TJ Zoik, who came in midseason, Anthony Kay was acquired at the trading deadline. To me, there was a lot of different pieces, and kind of like how the offense is put together. Everyone kind of brings something different to the table, and it's got to be hard for hitters to kind of adjust to that one day after another.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about what we could have had in a rotation, it would have been a big league rotation. So yeah, each of those guys bring a different kind of qualities, and Kay really comes at you from the left side with those fastballs, and Zoik is really good at kind of sinking, sliding, and putting it where he wants. And making it run off their barrel. So yeah, it would have been special, but we had some good arms that would have been starting for us every day.
Now, was last year your most consistent year in the International League?
Yeah, so in 2000, must have been 18. I was in Louisville for the month of April, ended up getting released, but yeah, last year I spent the whole year in the IL. So yeah, I've mostly been a PCL guy my entire life. So it was nice being an East Coast guy to be in this league and kind of be close to home.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because I think some fans know, some don't, that the travel in the Pacific Coast League vastly different, and in the IL, it had to have been nice to take a 4-hour bus ride or a quick bus ride here and there.
It is night and day difference because I came up with Seattle, so playing in Tacoma, being so far, like kind of isolated from everybody else, it was a lot of like 6 a.m. flights out of Seattle, but then it wouldn't be direct flights. So you'd have a layover in Colorado or like somewhere else, Vegas. So then it'd be like a 9:30 flight. So you get into your next city at like 11:30, 12 sometime. You'd have a game at 7. So yeah, that PCL life, it is tough, and it's every third or fourth day, so it wears on you quick. So it's nice to kind of just take a nice little 3-hour bus ride after a game and be in Pawtucket or Rochester, which is only like an hour. So it's real nice.
And for people that might not know, those aren't charter flights you're taking from 6 a.m. from Tacoma. Those commercial flights just like anybody else would take.
Commercial flights, Southwest, and most of the time you're like C13, so it's nothing.
Yeah. Well, Patrick, I appreciate you joining me today. Before we wrap up with you, I think one thing people like to see on these Zoom chats is, what you've got in the background. I've got a replica of an old Bisons hat and a picture I took. That's a quite an impressive collection of baseballs you've got there.
Yeah, my grandpa, kind of my entire life since Little League, he's always collected home run balls from every team or level I've been on. So I've got some Little League home run balls there, some travel ball, a couple college home runs, minor league home runs, and then my couple big league home runs too. So yeah, I got that. I got my Rutgers baseball jersey here behind me. This is kind of the office / teaching room now with my wife. But yeah, I got a couple other plaques hanging up. It's kind of our little do everything room.
Awesome. Well, Patrick, I appreciate you taking some time for us today. Hopefully we'll see you in person very soon.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll have baseball back. And either way, hope you and your family stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you. You too. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again to Patrick Kivlehan for taking a couple of minutes to chat with us today. Now it's time for my conversation with Andy Burns, who you remember from the start of last season was one of the leaders of the 2019 Bisons team. Well, Andy, thanks for joining us here for a couple of minutes today. First of all, I think fans want to know what you've been up to, how you've been, and hope you've stayed well so far.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this has been a tough time for everyone, but I've been at home and been with my wife, and we've been working out and just trying to stay busy, and and now that we've had some lightning on the stay-at-home ordinance, I'm getting into the cage and just trying to stay ready, so that when they tell us it's good to go, then I'll be ready to rock.
I know it's one of the biggest questions that fans have for players is, how you stay in shape, baseball shape, and was that even possible when you maybe first went home and were trying to figure things out?
I mean, it was just a lot of at-home workouts and just trying to get creative and do what you can. And, I think I was surprised by how much I was able to get after it. And, I have a bat bag filled with bats, and I use that as, my barbell, and just trying to get creative. And the Blue Jays sent stuff for us to, for at-home workouts with bands, and they even sent a kettlebell. So, I was fortunate enough to, get those things and be able to come up with some workouts that have been pretty effective.
Have you been able to talk to anybody from the Blue Jays organization, coaching wise, on what they kind of hope you're doing or the expectations while we all wait?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you don't have anyone watching you, so at the end of the day, you got to put in the work. But we're doing Zoom calls. We're trying to stay as it ended so abruptly, and we're just getting ramped up, and so trying to keep as much baseball moves and thoughts and ideas from a hitting standpoint as you can. just so that when we do go, it won't take too long to get back to full speed.
Spring training, just looking at the numbers, you were performing very well and getting in a lot of game action with the Toronto Blue Jays this spring. How do you feel personally it went, and what were things you maybe were working on?
I think last year, especially in the second half in Buffalo, I started to really take off. So for me, it was more just continuing to build off that and repeat those mechanics and repeat those thought processes and I was happy to get the opportunity to show what I can do at that level. And, I think you got to continue to evolve and push yourself and if you want to stay around the game. And I feel like, every year I'm continuing to get better and figure stuff out. And I felt like I was, going to go out and play my best baseball this year. And I still believe that. I think, once we get going, I think, I've got some things that really worked for me last year that I've been able to hone in on and repeat and, gives me a chance to put up numbers.
What were your expectations maybe going into 2019, having re-signed with Toronto after a couple of years in Korea? Did you expect to be in Buffalo and, with the prospects that were there? What were your maybe expectations going into last year's spring training?
Not much expectation. I think, I was excited for the opportunity, and the Blue Jays have always treated me well. And, for whatever reason, obviously Korea is getting a little more attention now. I don't think it was scouted as well as it could have been. And I didn't really have a ton of offers. And the Blue Jays, when I signed, it was to go to AA and play 4 or 5 times a week. And I knew I just needed an opportunity to get on the field and show what I could do. And, by the end of spring training, I got that roster spot in Buffalo and I just wanted to make the most of it and enjoy the game, enjoy my teammates. I think that's been part of the toughest part is like, not seeing your guys on a daily basis and not going through, I even miss the bus rides at this point, so,
right.
Last year expectation wise, it was just excitement to have the opportunity and trying to make the most of it.
Was it an adjustment going back to playing affiliated ball last year from being in Korea the last couple of years? I have to imagine there are differences in the way the game is played.
Yeah, I think I learned a lot in Korea, and I think if people are tuning into those games, they're seeing it's a different style of baseball, and they do some things really really well. So kind of meshing that with the American style game, and when you're over there, it's funny, like you're somewhat in isolation, and which all of us are going through right now. And I think it gives you time to really think and process and grow as a person and a player, and bringing that back to the States, and obviously the numbers kind of spoke for themselves, but that was the best AAA season I've had, and probably the best season I've had in the States. So being able to learn and grow over there and then come back and put it into today's game here in the States.
Talk about missing the bus rides and the team camaraderie. And I think one thing about last year's team, as the season went on, you guys became a lot closer, and yourself and maybe Patrick Kivlehan, there were a lot of players that have had experience that kind of helped lead the way. And did you feel that, and did you get that sense on and off the field?
Yeah, I think it's always difficult in AAA because you do have older veteran guys that maybe the majority of all the way up, you're playing with the same guys. So I think it takes in AAA sometimes a month or two to really gel and get to, there's a lot of movement up and down. And so, it takes some time to really mesh as a group. And I think we did a really, really good job of that. And, if we could have done that maybe a month or two earlier, I think we had the talent to be a playoff team. But, I think that's part of the journey. I think it's learning that once we did come together, I think everyone played better, and you realize like that's a big piece, and being able to put up your own personal numbers is how you handle your teammates and what kind of team guy you are, just because you want everyone pulling on the same end of the rope. And I think a lot of guys got a lot from last year, and I think, are better for it, myself included.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that just to follow up a little bit. How do you feel maybe coming back to the Jays organization, you were different, in a good way, or things that you just learned over the years that you brought into last season?
Yeah, I mean, I think, at this point, I think last year I got to my 1,000th game in professional baseball. So, there's not much I haven't seen. And I think, having Bo and Vlad and Kevin and even, Forswell and Espinal later in the season, it gives them an opportunity to learn some things that maybe they haven't thought about in their career. And I had the same thing, back in 2015 watching Matt Haig and what he did. And he was such a, he helped me out so much in my career. And there's a lot of guys that have helped shape me into the player that I am today. So, I think if you can create an environment where everyone can learn and grow and get better, I think that's where, if you can get that all the way up into the big league level, then that's, I think, where you see success.
I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but one of the exciting things about looking at 2020 would have been the pitching staff in Buffalo this year. And you look at guys like Pearson and Kay and Zoik, who was in Buffalo last year. That can almost separate teams early in the season, can it? When you've got that pitching that, usually as the season goes on, pitching gets better. But in Buffalo, the pitching was going to be about as good as you could get right from the start.
Oh, without a question. I don't think anyone in the league would want to face those arms early in the freezing cold. We have a ton of pitching in the Jays organization at this point, and man, it was going to be exciting to see those arms throw and see what they do, and it still is once we get back. I mean, we can't lose hope that everything's over. So those guys are going to get back on the mound, and they can really pitch. They're fun to play behind. They're fun to watch. Sometimes I get caught up in watching a guy like Pearson, and I'm like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like from second base, I'm like, man, that's not going to be a fun at bat. But it's like I said earlier. I mean, stuff like that. That's what you're missing most.
Yeah, how would you attack a guy like that who can throw 100 at will and drop his break and stuff, and it can't be fun?
No, I mean, you got to get creative. I think last year, and seeing such a velo spike, I think last year I choked up more than I've ever choked up in my whole career, and so things like that, adapting and evolving, and figuring out a way to be successful. So I don't know. I would start with choking up. I would say going against Pearson.
Now, coming back to the Bisons last year and now into your third season last year, you've moved up the record books in Bison history. I just wanted to get your perspective on that, and being one of the players that has played the most games here in the last 35 years. What does that mean to you? I know the big leagues is the goal, but what does that personally mean?
I mean, I think it's a testament to being able to stay in the game, find a way to continue to get a job. And, I think, I had a buddy who told me that it was actually John Birdie, his dad. He played minor league baseball, and he said baseball is a war of attrition. And, if you can just outlast people and get that extra opportunity and make the most of it. And I think that's what it speaks to more than anything. And I'm lucky that it was in Buffalo, New York. I mean, I think it's an incredible fan base, and I've always enjoyed playing in front of those fans. And I think I think it showed last year with my home and road splits. I love hitting in that ballpark, and I love playing in front of those fans. And obviously, yeah, the big leagues is the ultimate goal, but it's hasn't been a bad place to play.
You mentioned John Birdie. I mean, it's a great example because, look, he was in the big leagues almost all last year with Miami, and it looked like he was going to hang up his cleats going into last season, and he finds himself in the big leagues for nearly 162 games.
I mean, isn't that incredible? And I think that's the journey, and obviously that's the opportunity that I hope to get, and he capitalized on it. But I think when you look back over your career, and everyone's different, but you're gonna look at those times of adversity, and it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. And, I think, that's the beauty of the sport, and that's the beauty of, following athletes is, and The Last Dance is on right now, and his journey is just absolutely incredible, and it's been inspired. I think it's probably going to inspire. It's inspired me, and I'm sure it's inspired a lot of other athletes just to, not take a day for granted and continue to push. And the ultimate goal is to win championships. And I think if that's your drive and that's your goals, I think you can accomplish a lot with that.
I was watching, I think it was this past week's episodes of The Last Dance, and Michael Jordan, he shows us how he pushes his teammates to be better, but he got choked up when talking about that. And I thought that at least told me a lot. It's not just wanting his teammates to be better just to win games, but just, I think he really wants his teammates to be better for themselves too.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure that there were times where, guys pushed back, and maybe that's where some of that emotion comes from. But, and he was playing with the same group of guys for a lot of his career. And so I'm sure those relationships are, mean a lot to him, just like the relationships that I have with the guys that I've played with. And that's the stuff as a player. You love the competition, you miss the competition, but you also miss that camaraderie. Baseball, it's 162 games, and you're with these guys for six, 7 straight months. They're your family at that point, So, having those relationships that'll last, I think is what brings the emotion to players when they talk about it.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you about your experience in Australia last year and just what that was like. And, did it help you maybe get those extra reps in the winter to be ready for spring training this year?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I was definitely one of the older guys over there that were the imports, but it was something, actually my wife kind of pushed me to do. She always wanted to go to Australia. I'm like, you know what, like, you only play 3 or 4 times. You play on the weekends pretty much. You play Thursday through Sunday. So you have 3 days a week to see the country. And we were able to, see a lot of, it's a beautiful country, and we were able to see a lot and relax and stuff, but I was able to get the work in on the weekends. And yeah, I think I definitely think it helped in terms of, once I got to camp, I was only 2 weeks removed from live at bat. So it was almost like, not mid-season form, but I definitely felt ahead of the game. And I feel like it was extremely beneficial.
Landy, I appreciate you joining us here for a couple of minutes today. Hope you and your wife continue to stay well out in Colorado, and hopefully we'll see you very soon, whether it be in Buffalo or Toronto, but looking forward to catching up in person, not just here on Zoom.
Absolutely. Yeah, you stay safe, and thanks for having me.
Always great to chat with Andy Burns and Patrick Kivlehan. Hope you enjoyed those 2 conversations as we look to bring you more chats with former members of the Herd throughout the course of this season. Hope you're staying safe. Hope you have a great Memorial Day weekend. Look forward to catching up with you again soon, whether it be here on YouTube. You can also check out the Power Alley podcast in audio form on our SoundCloud page, soundcloud.com/Buffalo Bisons. Also on the Apple Podcast section, search Buffalo Bisons, where you can find all our previous episodes of the Power Alley podcast as well. Again, I hope you're staying safe. Hope to see you very soon. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Pat Malacaro. We'll talk to you next time.